Over 1,000 Russian athletes competing in summer, winter, and Paralympic sport can be identified as being involved in or benefiting from manipulations to conceal positive doping tests.
I have never seen anything quite like this, where state-sponsored, widespread doping has been found in an entire country.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 times Olympians cheated.
God damn, did they ruin that. That was terrible. That was one of the worst Olympic decisions I've ever seen in my life.
And so it is with a great amount of shame that I stand before you and tell you that I have betrayed your trust.
Nothing will change. It got worse.
Worse.
For this list, we'll be looking at times athletes or countries reportedly unfairly tipped the odds at the Olympics and Paralympics in their favor, but they were eventually caught out. Did we miss any Olympic cheaters? Let us know in the comments below. And if you're dying for more sports content, be sure to check out Watch Mojo's new podcast, The Waterboys Podcast, available wherever you get your pods. Number 10, Tonya Harding, Lillehammer 1994.
I mean, what kind of friggin' person bashes in their friend's knee? Who would do that?
Here's a story so dramatic, it inspired a film. Tonya Harding and Nancy Kerrigan were on the same team, but still had an intense rivalry. Before the 1994 US Figure Skating Championships, Nancy Kerrigan was attacked by Shane Stant.
Why?
He was contracted to break her knee by Sean Eckhart, an associate of Harding's then husband, Jeff Gillooly. The goal was to make sure Nancy couldn't compete so Tonya could claim gold at the championships and at the Winter Olympics.
For a time, you thought, we're going to get away with this.
Well, sure, I wouldn't have done it.
And you had no problem knowing that you could be taking her out of the Olympics.
I had no problem until I saw the effect of it.
Nancy recovered and won silver in the Winter Olympics, while Tonya placed 8th. Number 9, South Korean boxing officials, Seoul 1988. Korean boxer Park Si-hoon impressively made it through the competition with an injured right hand, but for a medal, he was up against Roy Jones Jr., someone on a completely different level. The bout was tough, and Jones utterly dominated. Yet when the referee lifted the winner's arm, it was Park's, surprising everyone, even Park himself.
There it is! Park Si-hoon has stolen the belt!
It wasn't proven at the time, but the decision was discovered to have been rigged. Future investigations discovered a tangled web of allegations that Korean boxing authorities had bribed judges to vote in their favor.
It hurt the sport of boxing, especially amateur boxing. It hurt it because when you can take a kid, 19 years old, he defeats his rival clearly, and you rob him, it really eliminates the integrity of that sport.
Reportedly not knowing anything about the purported shenanigans, Park kept his medal and later became a boxing coach. Number 8, Ben Johnson, Seoul 1988.
Everybody cheats. Who doesn't cheat in life? Everybody cheats in taxes. Everybody cheats in everything. Why Ben Johnson?
Ben Johnson was a star in the 1980s, winning medals, breaking records, and establishing himself as Canada's premier sprinter. Johnson then won the 100-meter dash at the 1988 Seoul Olympics, but unfortunately there was a dark truth behind his success. Despite denying rumors for years that he was on performance-enhancing drugs, his urine tested positive, which he later confirmed.
Johnson's urine sample tested twice in this laboratory, came up positive both times.
It was later claimed that many athletes were using anabolic steroids at the time, and that Johnson just happened to get caught. He was stripped of his medals and world record, with many home supporters still wondering why he did it.
I dope and I'm sorry. I have to live with that.
Number 7, Chinese, South Korean, and Indonesian badminton teams, London 2012. Not giving your all during an Olympic competition is actually against the rules, as we found out at the 2012 London Olympics. During the group stages of the women's badminton doubles tournament, the event became surrounded with controversy, as multiple teams were accused of not using their best efforts.
Deliberately serving into the net, again and again, 8 times. Despite a chorus of boos and a warning from officials. Then, watch this. China lets it drop, and South Korea follows up by serving it way outside the line.
Actually, they allegedly started to purposefully lose matches so they could get easier matchups for the knockout stage.
And reaction has been mixed. I mean, there have been some that say, it was an inevitable way that the competition stages work, and it's not the fault of the athletes. You know, it's the rules that should be changed.
It got ridiculous, with teams making basic errors that were uncommon in professional sport. The 3 teams were ejected from the competition for conducting themselves in a way that was abusive and detrimental to the sport.
Depressing. I mean, who wants to sit through something like that?
Number 6, East Germany Luge Squad, Grenoble 1968. Named at the time as the world's most perfect female luger, East Germany's Ortrun Enderlein was a favorite to win at the 1968 Olympics in France. And she did win first place with surprising speed, as did her East German teammates who won second and fourth place. But something seemed off. An event supervisor tested the luge's steel blades with snow, which supposedly hissed and vaporized. The officials concluded that the sleigh had been heated to melt the track's ice and increase speed. The team was disqualified, but the incident has remained contentious, with some home officials claiming Enderlein's innocence, with rumors of intrigue behind the allegations. Number 5. Boris Onischenko, Montreal 1976. As a world-class pentathlete, you'd think that the USSR's Boris Onischenko might have been able to win through skill alone, but it seems Boris wanted to be certain of victory. During his fencing bout against the British contender Jim Fox, the Brits noticed something was off. Boris was getting points without even touching his opponent. In electric épée fencing, a point is registered when the tip of the weapon is depressed with enough force to complete an electric circuit.
Beneath a layer of leather, there was a button leading to a wiring system. Press the button, and the sensors in the arena were told there'd been a hit. Onischenko had figured out a way to hit his opponents without touching them.
However, his modified weapon had a switch on the blade that would complete the circuit without making contact, meaning he just had to make it look convincing. Once he was found out, his peers shunned him, he was stripped of his awards, and he was given a lifetime ban. Number 4. Meline De Jesus, Los Angeles 1984. Puerto Rican athlete Meline De Jesus was competing in multiple events, but pulled her hamstring during the long jump. So instead of sacrificing the opportunity to compete in the 4x400 relay, she came up with something out of a movie plot. Margaret, her identical twin sister who was also an athlete, would swap outfits with her, allowing Margaret to compete in her place, and no one would be the wiser. And it worked, until Medeline's coach found out, and instead of going along with the ruse, he pulled the entire team from the event. Meline and Margaret were banned from future international competitions, and their unknowing teammates also received a suspension. Number 3. Fred Lohr, St. Louis 1904. Here's another wacky one. During the 1904 Summer Olympics, Frederick Lohr was competing in the marathon. He ran the first 9 miles, but stopped from exhaustion. That's when his manager decided to give him a helping hand. Fred was driven the next 11 miles of the marathon, after which he continued on foot into the Olympic Stadium and was greeted as the winner. Fred obviously knew this was pure cheating, but went along with it anyway, purportedly as a joke. He later confessed what had happened, and another runner was awarded the medal. Amazingly, a similar situation happened earlier in 1896, when the Greek marathoner Spiridon Belokas rode in a horse-drawn carriage for part of the race. Number 2. Russia's doping scandal, Sochi 2014.
Millions of citizens of Russia are united by the Olympic dream. Our national pledge to you is the choice of Sochi is the best choice.
It's one thing for an athlete to cheat, but for an entire country to allegedly sponsor the cheating is quite another. During the 1976 Olympics, the East Germany women's team learned that they had been secretly drugged to improve their performance during their management. That's appalling, but not even the most recent. After the 2014 Winter Olympics, a Russian state-sponsored doping scandal came to light, with many of their athletes actively participating in taking performance-enhancing drugs and attempting to hide that fact from screenings.
Earlier this month, the World Anti-Doping Agency releasing findings from their investigation, saying over 1,000 Russian athletes competing in summer, winter, and Paralympic sport can be identified as being involved in or benefiting from manipulations to conceal positive doping tests.
Once discovered, Russia as a whole was temporarily banned from future Olympic Games.
The country is also forbidden from hosting or bidding for major events. This represents the most severe sanction yet for a doping scandal which shocked the world.
Before we unveil our top pick, here are a few dishonorable mentions. Emperor Nero, Greece 67 CE. Being emperor doesn't mean you can cheat. Chinese gymnastics team, Sydney 2000. Team forced Dong Fengxiao to compete while underage. Liverpool police team, London 1908. Using extra heavy boots during tug-of-war competition. Number 1. Spanish Paralympics basketball team, Sydney 2000. This scandal is so jaw-dropping You'll wonder how anyone could let it happen.
The Spanish team were I think, laughed at and labelled the most unsporting team in history. I mean, unsporting is the wrong word, it's a euphemism for cheating.
During the 2000 Sydney Paralympics, there was more concern for doping than finding out if athletes were actually legitimate Paralympians. So, Fernando Martin Vicente, the head of the Spanish Federation of Sports People with Intellectual Disabilities, had an idea, a terrible idea. The team recruited players who faked having an intellectual disability. They went on to win gold by a huge margin, and Spain celebrated.
After beating the Russians in the final, they posed for a victorious team shot and were splashed all over the front page of Marca.
But one of the players was an investigative journalist.
At the beginning, I thought that it was totally impossible for someone to be capable of carrying out something like this. It just seemed completely incredible. And that was the reason why I got involved.
Carlos Ribagorda blew the whistle on the entire scheme. The team was disqualified, and Vicente resigned.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.